Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's three prakim Rambam. We are learning Hilchos Nedarim prakim Dalid, Hey, and Vav, beginning with Perek Dalid. Perek Dalid begins making a lot of corollaries or continuing with the overlap, similarities between Nedarim and Shavuos. So we're going to go again, speaking about Nidrei Anasim, Nidrei Shgogas, Nidrei Havoi, that they are mutarim. We'll explain what that means. Nidrei Zeirusin are mutarim. We're going to learn about Hataras Nedarim, which is something that we can do, like we can be matir the Shvua. We're going to learning about the rule that Neder, Shohutar Michloloi is Hutar Kuloi. We're going to learn scenarios where a person links a condition with a Neder. Sometimes the condition happens before the Isser, sometimes the Isser happens before the Tanai, and that will have a huge nafkamina and as how one should behave, as we'll be learning. Perek Daled has 16 halachas, beginning with halacha aleph. So Chevra, we learned a lot of these dinim when it came to oaths. Nidrei anosim. The Rambam will explain again what nidrei anosim. The word anos means you were coerced, a vow that was made under coercion, as the Rambam will explain. Nidrei shegagois is something that the Rambam does not explain over here. He explained that in the Hilchos Shavuos, Nidrei Shegogas, if a person says that I'm making a neder, for example, that my wife may not benefit of anything of mine, but he says, because she did X, Y, and Z. Then he discovers that she did not do that. That's called the Nidrei Shegogas. The point will be is that you don't even have to do Ataras Nedarim. Nidrei Havoi means a guy made a vow linking it to something that people normally exaggerate about. A person says, if I didn't see that the troops that passed through here were just as numerous as the people that left Mitzrayim. No, he's trying to show people how there were so many people. And if I'm not saying the truth, then all the fruit should be awesome. Now, there were many chayots. The fact that he said chayotz Mitzrayim and they were not 600,000 doesn't bother us because that's a normal accepted type of exaggeration. And here the Rambam is going to repeat the explanation of Nidrei Anosim, and I'll suggest, why doesn't the Rambam rely on what he explained above? The Rambam does not explain Shagagis. The Rambam does not re-explain Havoi, because he explained them in Hilchos Shavuos. I think, as we'll see, I'll give a reason in a moment, perhaps. Harei shehidiru Anosim, if men's of coercion made you take a vow, they're trying to get something out of you. And if you'll have it, they'll take it. They'll pay for it. They'll steal it. You're trying to show them that you don't have it. So you're making a vow. Or people that collects taxes in an inappropriate way. They're saying you have that article. They're saying we don't have it. And they were told to make a vow that if they have it, and as if they're lying, all meat should be prohibited on them. And this person, not to give up something which is rightfully his, even though he taka had it, made the neder, but he added. He says, Harei habasad, and the pas, and the wine asurim alai. I think that's why the Rambam explained Nidrei Anosim, because this detail, I think, was not in Hilchos Shavuos. That even though he added something that he was not asked to make, he's still not bound by it. Harei ze muter bakoil. Here the chiddush is, but why? Because since he was coerced to make the vow to begin with, that type of neder won't be binding. If he's saying dishonesty, and he was only being dishonest because if he would tell him the truth, they would take something away from him illegally. And he adds, nor his children, nor his brothers. Here again, and even though that you're not bound by Nidrei Anosim, based on the rule we learned yesterday, as we learned in Hilchos Shavuos, that if it's pid the liboy einam shavim, it's really not a vow. Even better, he should have in his heart something in mind which will free up the whole vow. For example, he should put in his heart that whatever he's saying should only be usher today. And if he says those words, it's like, be machmer and don't eat meat today. You don't like the whole day? Have in mind 1 hour. And then the soymech aladvarim shemeliboy, And why is all that allowed? Because be'emes, the whole neder to begin with is not a neder. And what's the advantage of adding some sort of condition or limitation in one's heart? The nimsa that b'shosha yidor lahem ain't pivili by shavin, as we explained in Hilchos Shavuos Yavaldik. Okay, now halacha gimel is some new type of neder, which interestingly, the Rambam Dafke did not mention in the laws of Shavuos. Let's remember one thing, that a Shavua that we learned about is when someone evokes Hashem's holy name. And therefore, we're going to be a lot more precautious when it comes to Shavuos, which will be the next topic of Nidrei Zeruzin, which is not allowed by your Shavua, as we'll explain, simply because you're taking Hashem's name, and a neder does not evoke God's name. Even if you're being maspis in something, you're not saying God, you're saying this should be like a carbon. Big deal. The problem is that you have to keep what you say. So when you have a category of vows which are not binding, it's lachatchila not problematic, and that's halacha gimel. Nidrei zeruzin, a neder that someone makes to encourage oneself is going to be completely not binding. For example, keitzad kigoin shehider chaveir sheyerchel etzloim, and the neder zeshelo yerchel memenu the pnei sheiner latliachol. You have two people; they're chaverim. It's beautiful. Reuven and Shimon. Reuven is trying to tell Shimon, eat by me. And he really wants him to get him to eat by him. So he says, listen, if you're not going to accept my invitation, you know what? Then everything that I have will be always prohibited for you. You know, he's just trying to do it to encourage Shimon to come. Shimon, out of respect for the Reuven, doesn't want to bother the Reuven. So he says, listen, if I will come, then he makes a vow. Which basically is like, stop wasting your time trying to get me to come. I can't. Each one is trying to make a neder to impose their will on the other, to impress their will on the other. Now, whichever way ended up happening, bein achal, bein lo yachal, no one is bound by their neder. By your oath, you're not allowed to make a shvua of zeruzin, like we mentioned, because you're taking Hashem's name. It's almost like taking God's name in vain. Don't use God to make an impression of how much you respect the other. Or you have the certain people have a culture that when they buy something, if they don't negotiate, they miss the step. They only do business to have the pleasure, cave and a smiling, people from certain places. So I'm not saying anything. So what happens is that the guy says, if I'm going to sell it less than 5, then all of the food in the world is forever asura. He's trying to impress on the potential buyer that he's not going to lower the price. And the buyer makes a vow, similar vow, zeruzin. If I'm going to pay more than 3, then he makes this meshugana vow. Now, if they sell it for 4, so no one is bound by a vow. Not a cent less. And the lekech makes a neder, whatever the neder is. He makes this crazy neder. This and that is also on me if I'm going to pay more than a shekel. So the din is, if they come to a middle ground, and it doesn't have to be a middle ground. It means no one is bound by these types of vows. But also, they came to an agreement with 3. No one needs to do hataras nadarim. It's predicated on the pivli by shavin. No one really made a full resolution. And they only made the vow to be mezaris, his friend, to encourage his colleague, to impress upon his colleague that he's very firm in his red line in the sand, which everyone knows they're going to break also. And how great is that? You know what? Since ain't pivli by shavin, that's how does it work? That's the tool. Ain't pivli by shavin, so therefore we don't blind the person. And Chazal say we know that ain't pivli by shavin. Halacha dala. Now, so we began today Nidrei Anasim, Nidrei Shagagos, Nidrei Havoi, similar to Shavuos, Mutarim. Unique by Nedarim, Nidrei Zeruzin Mutarim, says the Rambam Halacha Dalu Dominayin Shafilu Arba Mina in Nedarim Elo, that we just mentioned Shem Mutarim. Nevertheless, now guys, listen to this. In other words, even though it's not as bad as an oath, we said, because by oath you take God's name, don't make vows. There's a Jewish ethic not to take vows. And you know something? We live in a generation, and this is going on for many years, that our predecessors succeeded in uprooting this concept of making nedarim. We are in the habit of saying bli neder, which is a good thing, but don't make vows. Even though you're making a type of vow that you can break, or that lachatchila doesn't take hold, because it says lo yachol devarim, and the Rambam is using this pasuk or channeling this pasuk, not only lo yachol devarim when you are halachically bound by a neder, even when halachically you'll be mutter, still you're making your words into chulin. Okay, halacha. Hey, the big exception will be like we learned in the end of Hilchos Shavuos that nishbati v'akayemo. People that make oaths to keep mitzvahs. But they have to keep it. Even though if they don't keep it, since ein shua halal shua, they're not going to be breaking a shua. But there's a purpose here. Change the culture, and we did that. Halacha mi shenadad v'nicham al nidre. Another general topic in which we make a correlation between nadarim and shvuos. Right, this is what we call hataras nadarim. Again, that's what the Mishnah says in Chagiga. Hataras nadarim is oisiyos parchas ba'aviv. Because the Torah writes a lot of details about hafaras nadarim. Hataras nadarim is Torah shemal peh. You regret it. There was a way out. And it didn't have to nadarim, it didn't have to shavuos. We're very important that Rambam keeps on emphasizing that even though 3 hedyotas are okay, they should only be approached if you don't have the chacham. That's a muvak. So first go to the chacham muvak. And if you don't have that, she'ein matar elo chacham muvak, or and furthermore, what's the procedure? We had all of these details, guys, in Perek Vav and Chashvuos. That's the same lashon. Dafka, many things were very precise. Right? In yon nois, you got to know digduk. Sheba parshas, sheperashno b'shvuos, kulam v'nedarim kederech shehem b'shvuos. So why did the Rambam have to repeat the Nidrei Anasim? Nidrei Anasim, I think, for the add-on. And there's a rhyme and a reason. We're learning this very quick. The Rambam doesn't just open that up and add the differences. He repeats many dinim, but then he writes that there is a correlation. Halacha vav. Another correlation that he repeats. Ein matirin haneder at sheyochel kashua. What was the example that Rambam gave? Yaakov will listen to this. A guy says that he's in Chodesh Nisan, and he says that from the beginning of Chodesh Iyar, for 30 days, all the basar in the world is asar on me. He said it on Nisan. He cannot be matir neter in Nisan. Even though it's going to be chal in Iyar, you can only be matir the neter only after it's chal. Halacha zayin. Ucheshem shenishalim al nidrei isur matir noisoi, kach nishalim al nidrei hegdish umatir noisoi. You would think once you're magdir something, you can mamish undo hegdish. Even something, guys, that has kedushas mizbeach. The only carbon that cannot be, so to say, revoked through hataras nadarim is a tamura, and there's limudim for that. B'chlal, you can't make a tamura. You would think since the Torah says you can't make a tamura, it should be the easiest to undo. No, dafka not. And if you remember the Gemara says because tamura is the only carbon that tamura betos is also a tamura, which is very much connected to hataras nadarim, because hataras nadarim is you're telling the chacham, I made a mistake. Had I known, I wouldn't have done it. By a tamura, even if you made a mistake, it's anyways a tamura. Now there is hafaras nadarim, guys. We're going to learn about this in a few chapters from now. Both sometimes the right is given to the father, sometimes to the husband. Now that we're saying that both categories of nadarim, even though the Rambam and Perek Aleph said clearly that he's not addressing nidrei hegdish, but every now and then he brings it back. It's the same. Hataras nadarim is the same, and hafaras nadarim therefore is also the same. You have the koyach to be mefer, you have the koyach to be mefer nidrei hegdish. More about this, we're going to learn a whole Perek about it. Halacha tes. Misha nadar. We learned this din yesterday in Perek Gimel. Someone made a vow. What did we learn yesterday from the 4 differences between nadarim and shvuos? Is that you can attach yourself to an eder. What was that? I make an eder, and then you can say, and I'm also like that person. By an eder, it works. So there's a pyramid. So what were to happen? You made an eder. You begin, basar, all the basar is asar on me. I heard it and it says, v'cheinani, and you said, v'cheinani. So we're all linked. What happens if the first guy is matir neder? So once, since it's attached, it doesn't remain standalone nadarim. The first guy that's matir neder will knock down all the other nadarim, like the dominoes. Now, if the guy in the middle is not matir neder, whoever made the neder after him will be automatically unbound, but not the guys before. That's halacha tes. Misha neder. And v'shama chaveri v'amar va'ani. And we said it works only by nedarim, not by shvuos. V'shama shlishi v'amar va'ani. If the first person underwent a halachic hataras nedarim, automatically hutru kulam, but only in that direction, because C was leaning on B, that was leaning on A. So if A is knocked down, everyone is knocked down. But if only C was mataneder, nitra achrin and taka, the one that was mataneder is mutar, but it doesn't go backwards. Ha'achrin mutar, but v'kolam asurim. Or if the one in the middle, so the second and the third become mutar, and if there would be a fourth and a fifth and a thousandth, I don't care. It works. However, Harishoin will be asur. Good, simple, right? We learned in attachment, not only attaching va'ani, we learned about attaching items to the other. Person says, another basar is asur on me. Then the person says, and the bread should be like the meat, and the fish should be like the bread. That also is effective. And therefore, when you revoke, if you revoke the earlier one, you automatically revoke the latter ones. The initial Allah pass automatically, but if you only were mataneder on the basar and taka the chachamim, the mumcha, the Bezdin, the idiots, the hadyoitas. So then, lo yutar apas. Halacha yudalov. Hanishba oy hanoider. Guys, a new thing now. She'eni nehena lekolchem. I will not benefit from any ones of you. Now we're going to learn the sugya that neder, guys, shechutar mechlaloi. If you only were mated one detail of that neder, then the whole neder automatically collapses. So he made one statement that the benefit of all of you is asur amin, all of 10 people. Then he was nishal al nidrei al shivasi only for regarding one. He got a good Pesach. That person he has to benefit from. And they only addressed one. And vihitirai, what happens? Memela hutru kulan, because of this rule. Other applications. Amar, if he says she'enin el lozeh, ulozeh, he begins to specify. But you know what he does? He adds what we call in English the vav hamachaber. So since he said a vav hamachaber, and they're all linked. Now we're going to go back to what we learned in halacha test. But since you linked and B and C and D, you understand? So if you revoked A, everyone's neder falls apart. But not because of the word, not because of the kalam neder shehutra kolam, because you specify, but you link them. Hutra kolam, hutra achrein, only the achrein muter v'kolam masunim. Because it's not a neder shehutra mechlali. It was not a neder mechlali. It's sacheni. You made a vava machaber. You connected one to the other, so you were maspis the neder. Now, what happens if the guy not only specifies, but they don't say the vav hamachaber? She'ein nehena lozeh, lizeh. Each one is a mamish, a standalone neder. So now tzarich lepesach lochalecha liyechad v'chein kol chayoytze bozeh halacha yud beis. Nodar. We had this case yesterday. A person makes one statement, and he's speaking about many different types of vows. He says, Nadar benazir means, he says, Hareini nazir. As we'll learn in Hilchas Naziris, if you say it's tam, it's for 30 days. And he adds, Ube karben. Guys, karben means, just to know, whenever you learn in the Dorim, people get from karben means, that item is asur on me like a karben. He's making one statement in which he's undertaking Nazirus. He's prohibiting something on himself. He could have just said Davaza Asar Alai, but it was common that people would link it. And as we said, that the Davar Hanadur, right? If you're maspis, the Davar Hanadur, it's effective. You just can't be maspis of the Basar Chazir. That's Bekarbon. And then he makes an oath. Okay, that's one case, but you make three statements together. Oi is a whole different topic, which will share the same halacha. A person made a neder, ve'ena yudua be'eze mehem nada. You know what the rule will be? Let me go to the first case that he spoke out. It's similar to what we learned in Yud Aleph. If you make one neder altogether, you knock off one shtickle, you knock off the whole thing. So Pesach echad lekulam. We view it as a neder echad, and we apply the rule that neder shehutar miksasai hutar koloi nichloloi. Thank you. Oh, halacha yud gimel. I think here the rule is huta miktsasai. It's not michlali because he was not koilal everything. He made different nedarim. Yeah, that's the lashon. Halacha yud gimel. Hanoider ma'anche yoir. You made it. Now here's a michlali. I'm not going to benefit from anyone in the city. Everyone in the city. Let me ask you a question. If you want to be matan neder and you're going to a chacham of the city, so you're benefiting from someone in the city. Now, here, you could be matan neder by going to a chacham of the neighboring city. So here, it's only a b'di'evet. If you went to the chacham, now don't forget, guys, that when you're matan the neder, as we learned in Shavuos, even though you have to give a reason, it goes retroactive. So when you're matan neder, post facto, it's effective. Even though you shouldn't have gone. The nishal chacham sheboir, b'di'evet, okay, now a lechatchila case. A guy makes a neder, I will not benefit from any Jew. Now think about it. If you cannot benefit from any Jew, now what? No, we want to always leave the possibility for our Torah's Nadarim. Here, any Jew, who can be matter a neder? A Yid, a Chacham, a not Chacham, a Yid. The only way to do it is by going to a Yid. So here, lechatchila, you can go to anyone. Harei nishal chacham shebi Yisrael. That's the lashon of lechatchila. And harei nidroi mutar. Gewaldig. Halacha yudalid. Oimer peres elu asurum olai. Hayoim. Guys, hulk up. I mean, these are simple sugyas. Once you learned it once, there was an iser and there was a tanai. How that's the way you should categorize it. Something is prohibited and something is the condition that will bring about the iser. He's saying these paydas are asur to me today. The paydas might become asur if he does a condition which will happen tomorrow. Im elech lamakim ploini lamacher. You got it? So these will be the words, guys. The iser is hayoim. The tanai is lamacher. So what's the question? Can he eat the fruit today? That's the question. Don't forget, if he eats the fruit, he's not being over on an isur yet, because who says he's going to do the tanai tomorrow? Or you can argue, don't eat it today, because you might do the tanai, and then retroactively you did an isur. We say the latter. We say don't do it. So guys, obviously, now 1 second, let's go through both cases. If the guy ate it, and then he went there tomorrow, means he kept the tanai tomorrow, which made the isur bichal today, he'll be chayev for violating a neder, and it's much easier than shvuos with the categories with karbanis by neder. It's simple. You made a neder, you violated the neder b'mezid, malchus. It's right. You like it. Now, if you ate it today, which you shouldn't have, but you didn't fulfill the tanai, also you did nothing wrong. Is later like. Now let's go on the opposite. The opposite means that the tanai is hayoim and the isur is lamach. Big difference. These fruits will be usher tomorrow if I will go there today. Lechatchila, you can go there today. Who cares? You can go there today. You're going to activate the tanai, and that will make the neder chal for tomorrow. And indeed, they are also all of Pesach. The question is why? If we're saying lechatchila, don't put yourself in a pickle. What's the difference? The Rambam says very simple. People are nizhar, hopefully, not to violate the isur. No one cares about violating a tanai. Even in the case of Yudalid, where if you violate the tanai, retroactively you already were over under davar ha'asur. In the psychologically, I'm only doing the tanai today. That's why lechatchila don't go there if you made the tanai lamacher on the isur is today. But the ein azor b'tanai. How great is that? Final halacha to zayin. There's something special about these series. Where do we have such cases? Gavaldik. It sounds amazing.
Who did this?
Everyone, because we have an animal, and how do we deal with our animal? That's the way they dealt with it. That's the way that it was. You want to bind yourself. It's the most normal thing. How do people do it today? I don't know. Some people that make believe they're tzaddikim. We're not tzaddikim. We have this. We got to deal with it. I want to go there tomorrow, and I know me. Tomorrow I'll be lazy, so I make a vow. We should not do this. The Chazal said, don't do it. Don't use nadarim because people who break the nether were in trouble. They would make a vow. They would make a vow that they can't keep. I won't eat meat. I won't eat this if I'll go there, if I won't go there. Not everyone did that. Halacha, we don't do it anymore, and that's a good thing. Halacha tazayin. So now next case, Hanoi de lots of masala yamin. Huh? No, the Rebbe spoke about it a lot. The hate tzadik valti rasha. No. That's nishbati v'akayim. That's why we said the one thing that is still accepted is to take an oath, not a vow. To take an oath to keep the mitzvahs. Taka David HaMelech did it. David HaMelech was an honest guy. He said, I'm in that area. I'm in trouble. I'm swearing for one day. Okay, we're going to learn about this in the Maimer after davening. The beautiful Maimer Kiseitzi from the Alter Rebbe. Okay, Hanoi der lots of masada yom. A guy makes a vow. Lots of guys. This means not consecutive. You learn it. You chap. That's how it's going to work. No, I didn't say when. I have to fast 10 days. Whenever I choose. Now, here's the key. I began a fast on one day. And in the middle of the day, I'm fasting on the wrong day. If we can make it as Ras Nashim here, that would be great. And in the middle of the day, there's a bris. Yeah, you're being kicked out. Or there's a great man came to the neighborhood and they're making a meal. You appreciate this case. It's you never said when you made the nether which day. That's the key. You get to choose which days. You chose today. And in the middle of the day, you realize, today there's a Seudas mitzvah. The din is you can break your fast. Because you never said today, even though you began to fast today, so what? You have to pay it back. However, if you said, I am making a neder to fast today, just don't know how to do it. You can never say, I'm making a neder to fast today. These are nonsensical words. Chazal expect for us to understand how it works. I'm saying that if I won't fast today, all of the basar, all of the peta, something that I need will become prohibited on me. Nidrei isur is always only isur. Every time you learn cases where a guy is binding himself to do something with the neder, it's always going to be in that. That's the way you have to format it. So nadar sheyatzum hayoim, and you made a mistake. And the shachach ba'achal, guys, halkap. What do you have to do? Is did you fulfill your vow? You broke your fast, but you know what? You're not allowed to keep on eating because you said you're going to fast today. The fact that I sinned. The same thing you have in Al Shabbos. I want to give a good correlation. If it's correct or not, someone can correct me. If a person, God forbid, begins to break Shabbos, right? They don't say, I already broke the Shabbos. I drove on Shabbos. I was Machal, God forbid. So I can do it again. No, it doesn't work that way. You're still chayv to keep Shabbos. You made a vow to fast today. You got to mashum lotzim. Now, another case. Nadar sheyatzum yoim echad shnayim. Again, you didn't specify. Since you didn't specify the day, you lost that fast day, which means you can keep on eating. That's the word. And to be mekayim your neder. But today you can eat. Very good. New chapter. Pedekei. And these are gewaldige chapters. First thing is that I can bind you with my vow. If I am vowing about my property, I can say that my stuff is asur on you. Question is, if that person is going to go ahead and benefit from my stuff, are they chayiv malchus? So the Rambam is going to begin the chapter by pointing out that not every time that there is a neder, a chalois haneder, will it mean that the violator will get malchus? Doesn't work that way. For you to get malchus for violating a neder, either you have to make the neder, or at least you answered amen when the neder was made. If you don't have that, there can be a neder, but you're not going to be chayiv malchus. There's another rule. Ein adam oiser al chaveru davar she'ena shaloi. Me binding you by my vow has to be only in the case where it's about something of mine. We're going to learn also very interesting nuances where ownership doesn't always mean that you can benefit from it. Like if a person makes a vow that his child should not benefit from his nechasim, should not have hana'ah from his nechasim. So it doesn't mean that he doesn't yarshin it. He'll yarshin it, he'll own it, but he can't benefit from it. And we'll see that's a very important nuance. And there are certain types of vows that if they are worded like Peiros elu. Elu are a carbon on me, which means they're usher to me like a carbon. Since he specified the fruits, not only are they usher, but if that was sold for something else, chilufeim asurim, or if they were planted, giduleim are asurim. Unlike if a person makes the generic statement, peiros ha'olam asur olai, then we won't extend it to chilufeim and giduleim and many other such nuances. Peirik also short parakim today, but they're filled. They're small but powerful. 16 halachas, halacha alf. First case, Reuven that tells Shimon, Hadeni olecha chedim. I am forbidden to you. I am forbidden. It means you cannot benefit from me. It means I can bind you because it's about me. Oy, hadei ato asur b'ham yasi. You are forbidden to benefit from me. So the din is, even though I'm imposing a neder on my fellow, I can do that. Why can I do that, guys? Because I have the right to prohibit it or to limit my stuff for you. And taka, it's effective. Neser al Shimon she'yanam Reuven. The Narvas, what's the chiddush? Chiddush is that if Shimon violated the vow, which he shouldn't have, he won't get malchus. Why? Shadei li Amar Shimon Klumen. Now, Amar Klum, you know what the word Klum means? He didn't even say Amen, because if he would have said Amen, we learned to klal that Ha'ayno Amen is as if he made a neder. Umuter little Uven lahanis m'Shimon, another din that even though Reuven made that vow, one might have thought that since Reuven is saying, Shimon, you cannot benefit from me, Reuven should not benefit from Shimon, because if that's the way the world, if I have a relationship with you that I'm benefiting from you, there's a much higher chance that you will benefit from me. We don't say that. We don't say that. Now Reuven has to move away from Shimon. Because people ask, what's the chiddush? The chiddush is that the Gemara says one might have thought that Reuven has to be moved on Shimon to help Shimon keep the vow. We don't say that. All he said was, I can benefit from you, and you cannot benefit from me. Okay, halacha base.
When he helps you, it's not getting undone by the good feeling.
If I'm benefiting from you and you cannot benefit, yeah, but who has the good feeling? I mean, that's a very unhealthy relationship. So it's a one-way relationship. Reuven says, I can benefit from you and you cannot benefit from me.
Shimon is the one that's the giver, right?
Shimon can be the giver and the taker. Shimon can be the giver, he can't be the taker.
The giver. In the case of being the giver, he's not
getting any hana because he can't be the
by being the giver.
No, he's not.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm saying that by being the giver, you're not getting hana.
Exactly. Titus Manas doesn't always have to work. Make it very clear. Halacha base. That this is the Torah. Everything else is not as commentators, which are nice, but you have to be very careful to put it in the right context. And I'm saying this with the greatest respect. Halacha base. Shimon. Guys, help up. So now Reuven tells Shimon that you are forbidden to me like a chedim. Or again, Hadeni Asr B'Hanoscha. Hadenesa Reuven Milanis Mishimon. Now, here, since Reuven made the vow, if Reuven is going to violate it, it'll be Chayv Malchus. And the opposite direction, again, we don't say that if one way Hana is Asr, let us impose a two-way Isur Hana to prevent. We don't say that, no matter in which direction. And Shimon Mutar B'Hanosru. Omar Lo Yadeni Olach Chedim. If Reuven says, I cannot benefit from you, you cannot benefit from me, right? So since, again, I have the right to aser my stuff on you, so the neder is binding both directions. But again, Malchus will only go if the one who articulated the neder violated the neder. Who's like only the noider? That's the main thing of halacha aleph and beis. Halacha gimel. Reuven that tells Shimon, Hadei peiros ploin yasur malacha. Reuven tells Shimon, Levi's peiros is asur for you. Garnished with garnished. Hadei ato asur banas ploini. Says that ain't a klum. She'ein adam oiser chaveirei b'davar she'ein shaloi. Ele imkei. 1 second. If Shimon says amen, it's as if Shimon made the vow. Halacha dal. Hoimel chaveiroi ki kari zu asura alechem. So now, this is a very big thing. I should have mentioned this in the Hagdama. Even if he gave it to him as a gift, And therefore, what you would think that Reuven is only asering Shimon. You cannot benefit from my bread when I own it. One would have thought so. Once the neder is chal, even though I don't own it anymore, I have the power to aser something on you, even though I don't own it. I ain't adam oiser al chaveri davar she'ena shaloi shkoyach. Here, when he made the vow, it was shaloi. Even though later it's not going to be his anymore, that once the neder is chal, you got that, the neder continues. And we'll have many halachas regarding afal pishon b'matana. It continues, hadezu asura olav. How great is that? A mace, the nafla b'Yerusha, oishenasan loy acher b'matana. But if it went over to the other, either through Yerusha, or it didn't go directly from the vower to the person who was bound. So I make a vow, you cannot have anah from this bread. Fine. And then I give this to you, to someone else, and he gives it to the third party. So it didn't go directly from him to him. Now the moment there is a phase where it's not kikari, prior to it coming to the ultimate person, that already allows him later when he gets it to have anah from it. Because if I give it to you, you cannot have anah from my bread, and I gift it to you, even though you own it, you can't have anah. We're going to have many cases where we're going to point out that you owning it doesn't always mean that you can have anah. Same thing. If it's from me to you, doesn't matter. That's the whole word of Allah Gimel. If I said kikarizu, since when I made the neder, it was mine, and I said this. Why did I say this? I made this to say that no matter what, it should remain also. That's no. Because it came to you through another direction. Where you saying macha? No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that it didn't go direct. Halacha hey. Yes, then it's okay. Yeah. You see, great. Halacha hey. Amaloi perus elu asurim alach. Now, guys, kikari, perus elu. Perus elu means these fruits. He didn't say my fruits. Since he said this fruit's even worse. In other words, the premise of all this is that even though I cannot ask for something that's not mine on you, I can't. But when it is me and I make a neder, the neder will remain there even though it's no longer mine. And here, since he didn't say mine, he said these, it's even worse. Here you go, Rabbi Yaakov sold it, not to someone else, not sold it to this guy. And the nafula acher forever had el wasurin. Here we go. See this? Even though it leaves after the vow, it leaves the property of the noider. Harehu be'isurei oimed. Only if he said mechasai, peroisai, beisi, b'chayil shalazelu. Sharei le'asoran elo kozman she'em b'reshusai. And by the way, even over here, right? If he gives it directly a matana, it still is awesome. That's the beginning of Dalit. It takes a while to appreciate this. Okay, if a person tells the son, you are forbidden to benefit from me. What did that? He makes an oath. And then the father mace. What did he say? That's what he had the right to do. You cannot benefit from me. When he dies, he yarshins him. And what did we say in the Halacha Daled in the second stanza? That if it's a Yerusha, here, not only will he inherit it, but he can have Hana. But, Osar Hana Yasi Olav, you cannot have Hana from me. Upeidash, and he says, Bein B'chaye, Bein B'moisi. Now that he added Bein B'moisi Yaakov, based on the rule that even though Ein Adam Oisu Davar She'ena Shaloi, but mitzat sheni, once it's yours and you make a neder, it could continue, and that's what the guy says to his son. He's not happy with the son. Imeis lo yiroshenu. I want to tell you something from the words of the Gemara. Lo yiroshenu does not mean the son is not zoiche in it. Means lo yiroshenu means he cannot have hana. And I'll tell you why that means, because then if the son has a son, it's going to go down. Shezek kemisha oimaloi nechasim elu.
It's not called Anah?
No, because Yerusha, no.
Huh.
Yeah, it's not something that you're giving. It's something that happens automatically. The child is in the place of the father. I don't think because you're dead. Okay, fine. You want to word it that way? Fine, good. Guys, I want to emphasize, it's very important that the son was zoicher. Nor was then, it's asur b'hana'ah. That nuance is very important. Halacha zayin. Now, asur b'noi b'hana'asai. Guys, halacha zayin is the second part of halacha vav. Continuing, in other words, the guy said, bein b'chaye, bein b'moisi, that has to be the case, you'll see. And then he adds, but if my grandson will be the one, the then Harei Mutter. Harei Mutter means right away. The year, one second. The year haben also benichsei ha'av, uben haben mutter behem, im year Talmud Chacham k'moy shehisnem.
So wait, if he just says, hey, you're usher from inheriting me, well, benefit from me in my life or after I'm dead, then he doesn't even inherit it. And only in the case where he makes it.
No. Halacha ches. 1 second. Now listen to this. No. Halacha. This son that cannot have hana from the Yerushas of his father, im not son Yerushas of it. If he gifted it, if he gave it away, the point is he owns it, Danny. There are restrictions. If he gave it to his brother, or if he gave it to a son, and I want to say, Yaakov, you said before that the hana of giving a matana. You can argue that giving a gift, not in this. I'm telling you, the vart of all of these halachas, you have to know how to work it out, is that the goof of the nechasim belongs to you. You can't have hana'ah. And giving a gift, let's call this either a small benefit or an indirect benefit. Since I gave you a gift, you're a kabbalit, so you're going to do me a favor tomorrow. That's called indirect benefit. That's mutter. I'll tell you better. This son, the guy makes a vow. Look at this father. My son is usher to have a nom for my property when I'm living and when I'm no longer living. Okay, the goof belongs to the son. The son has a debt. He'll pay his debt with it. Even that is not called hana in the context of Nadarim. He's not being mehenah. He's getting rid of his debt. Let it sink in. I know that we don't think that way. That's the way the Torah is telling us.
That's saying you're not allowed to know from. You're not allowed to give it to someone. That's what Yaakov was in before.
Not in the context of a neder. I know that.
And walk away.
Very good.
Know who gets it.
Even if the son paid his debt, or if the son divorced his wife and he has to give her the ksuba, he can give it. He can relieve himself from a chayv. Kevin is waking up. Yeah.
Can he put a condition on the gift? I'm going to gift it to you by the condition, with the condition that you gift it back to me.
No, because since he said my belongings, he can never get it back. That was halacha dal. He has to say, okay, and it's better. He has to let the recipient know, I want you to know what I'm gifting to you is something that I cannot benefit from. And why do you have to notify? I'll tell you, okay, to ensure they don't give it back. To ensure they don't give it back. I want you to know I'm giving you a gift that you have to keep. Which means some people have the psychology when they give a gift, they expect to get it back. Good. Allah test. I know there's a part of Zion that I got to figure out over here, but anyways, that's we're saying good over here. Allah test.
Is it possible that where it goes to the son, but it's Dafka Yerusha? Because he says that in Allah test.
I know.
It must be Yerushas of it, right? Or is that something else?
No.
Is he giving it while he's alive? Or
No. His father died, so he's Yashin's.
I'm saying, so maybe that's not so much considered. Like I was saying before, if he's dead, he's not getting enough. But if he's alive, you can't give it to his son or to his brother. You give it to him indirectly. No,
I don't think so. No, he can't give it because the son doesn't own it because his father is alive. Some children feel they already own it when the father is alive, but it doesn't nish to emes. When the tata left, you own nothing. It belongs to your dad. Let's go right. It's like Misha Nesad Olav Mini Michael. If a person makes a neder, then the neder maybe shvuah. Oh, listen. And now this food gets cooked with other foods, or it gets mixed with other foods. It's greatest. Guys, you didn't say this food. You said, I'm not going to eat meat. You didn't specify the meat. You don't need to have bittul b'shishim. When you make a vow not to eat meat, what you mean is not to eat meat be'en. Even though that you taste the taste of that which you made an isser.
The broth would be okay.
Mamish, because you meant with a neder, if you didn't say this, the way it is, be'en, but im neser peiras elu, if you said these, then it's different. And they get mixed with something else, then you go, not only do you have to have bittul b'roiv, you have to have the bittul of shisham, as we learned, im yesh behem tam davar ha'asur, that Rambam says it's better to have someone else taste it. Here, you don't even have to have a goy, because it's only asur for you. If you don't have a goy, you're soymech on that most things are batal b'shishim. Im lav there amutarim, halacha yud ketzad nesed basar or yayin, if you just said stam basar or stam yayin, you can have a meat that they poured wine in it. The people that make fancy meat, right? They pour wine in it. They think the big chachamim, some license. You can make. You can have a soup. You can have vegetables that you have basar and the yayin, even though you mamish taste it. Who tastes the wine and the meat? No one. But that's a chaim. Samach taste. I don't think so. It's still fantasies.
The cheaper the junkier the meat, the more the wine.
The junkie, then more the ketchup, they say. Okay, right. The eno asur elam b'achilas basar, because you said meat. You only meant meat b'fnei atzmai or yain b'fnei atzmai. But nesad basar zeh, in contrast, Allah Yudalef, if you said, I'm making a vow not to have this meat or not to have this wine, and that got mixed in a yarog, it got mixed in vegetables or whatever, and any other dish. Now it depends. In yesh b'yirakas tama basar tama yain asurim. Only if lav mutarim. Because shezeh habasar b'zeh yayin asik my basar milos shkatzim achayotze behem mechich achayotze b'zeh. Now if you can basar zeh asur olai, hadez asur boy uba marek shaloi, or the spices that were cooked with it. You cooked spices with it. You want to remove it, use the spices. You can do so. Allah yud beis the sort of yayin zeh shasorim alatzme b'yayin achar. And let's go back to min b'minoi min b'shein minoi. How great is this? So atkan was bittul b'shishim because it's min b'shein minoi. Very good. You have this wine, yayin zeh, and this yayin zeh got mixed with other wines. So what do we say? You remember the rules? Here, I'll give you a right away rule. You'll never have bittul here. Why will you never have bittul here? Because it's called a davar sheyesh lematirim. Because every vow can become mutar. Afilu tipa b'chavis neser hakoil b'pnei sheyesh leilishal al nidroi, and therefore nasek kid davar sheyesh lematirim. It's interesting how it's worded. Why isn't this a bona fide davar sheyesh lematirim? Because it's not. Because that's not the davar sheyesh lematirim means something that will become mutar. Like the nebela shenoilot b'yantev, it's only on yantev. No, here it's like, because if you do an action, you can make it mutar. She'enu batal b'minoi, as we learned in Luchas Machalas Asuras Perek Tezvav. What a great chapter that was. Allah Yud Gimel. Ha'omer peiros ha'elu karban olai. Guys, peiros elu karban olai, or hein karban elapi, or karban hein alpi. Hadez, since he said elu, that was the final topic. Hadez also, not only is this, but if you exchanged it for another produce, or if you planted it and now there's a growth from it, it's also asur. And there's no need to say that juices that come out of it are for sure asur like it. Guys, that's only when you said elu. If you said te'enim are on my mouth like a carbon, we won't say that because he said these. Okay, halach yudal. Not that nishpa she'enu oichal oisan. Not elu oisan. It's already not as. Elu is here. You're pointing. Marabetz boiva emazeh. Then it's less. She'enu toin oisam. So here it's like in between. Was if you said te'enim asurim alai, b'chlal not a problem. If you said the words elu, they are asur and they're chilufeim, the giduleim. Oisan is in between. Depends. Certain things when you plant, their seed completely decomposes. The mashal Hasidus always uses that's by the grains. So then, like grains. So now, since it decomposed, so either when you exchange it, it's completely something else. You exchange it for something else, or if you planted it, You understand that which comes from it is really coming. The Chassidus says from the koyach hatzameach ba'aretz. It's not coming from the seed. The seed completely decomposes, so we can be more lenient. But the ba'aretz like tzolim, like onions or like garlic, right? All of these experiments that our kids come home from school, they put something in a cup and green grows out, and everyone is excited. Then afilu giduli masurim because the original is still here. Mashkin that comes out of it is a suffix. Don't drink it. If you drink it, you're not chayv malchus. Okay. Halacha tezvav. The guy tells his wife, "Masa yudecha like carbon." Right. The work that your hands produce is prohibited on me like a carbon. This is his gift to his wife. He's trying to tell her, look how good, right? You can keep your income. A carbon hein lepi, or carbon hein alpi. Since he says masa yodayich, so the more specific he is in the vow, the more removed he has to be. Can't even benefit from the exchange of her income. He cannot benefit if her income was in food and it was planted, no matter what. Even bedavar shezarei kola, she'eni toyim. If he says that I will not eat from the work of your hands, eating, right? Tasting or eating. Oh, so like this. Im haya peres masiudak davar shezarei kola. Then he's allowed to have chilufemas regardless, guys. I know that chilufema has nothing to do with zarikola, but he's putting it together. Then I feel masurim. 1 second. Why do we do bittul? You know, you plant something. I get it that certain seeds don't decompose, but that which comes out is a lot more than the original what you put in there. And if you do it a few times, there's going to be a bittul. So here the answer again is because since it's all vows are in the category of a davar shelesh matirim, she'eino batal b'roiv, k'may shebeyarno meka she'elas chacham, and revoke, retroactively, the ganze neder. The final halacha tazayin, ha'oiser peiroisav al chaveiroi, as we began the first chapter today, Perek Zayin. I can prohibit my stuff on you. Bein beneder, bein b'shvua. So now, harei giduleim v'chilufeim safek. Why is here? Why do we have a suffix? I'll tell you why. Because I can only prohibit on you something that I own. Yachap, the giduleim is not ba'olam yet. That's why it's a question whether it's going to be effective or not. It's not about me. Elamad, the item is mine. No, how can I answer the gidulim if they're not ba'olam? That's the doubt. And it's how much do you see the potential, the actual and the potential? If you see the poil in the koyach, then you own the koyach, you own the seed. I have a chita. I can say that you cannot have enough from my chita. Even though we learned in the beginning of the chapter today that you're not going to be chayv malchus if you eat it, but you can't have the wheat. Now, if I'm going to plant the wheat, why is it different? Even though I said this, because when I made the vow, I didn't own that which grows from it. It wasn't in the world yet. Great. No, the Gemara has a sub. Huh? The one before is ba'olam. If I'm making the vow on me, if I'm making it on me, it's less problematic that it's not ba'olam. Later, since I made the vow, anything that your hands produced, it's coming from your work. Very good. Now, lefika chaveiroi asur begedulei peiros elo b'chilufeim. In other words, whenever there's a doubt, you have to be machmer. But if they violated it, there won't be malchus. Now here, there won't be malchus for 2 reasons. That's very important. Number one is like we learned in Perek Dalet. Because b'chlal, if I make a vow on you, if you didn't say amen, you'll never be chayiv malchus, even though you were us. But on top of that, who even says that my vow was effective on that which was not ba'olam when I made the vow? So there's a double reason why chaveiroi won't get punished. Today's final Perek Vav is today's largest chapter, has 18 halachas. Perek Vav is going to speak about a certain type of vow where I'm saying that any hana'ah that can bring to a food benefit will be asur on me. So how far do we extend that? So any monetary benefit can bring me to food benefit because I can use geld to buy food. We'll see how much of an isur does that include. As we had in the previous chapter, sometimes when an act will be done which will prevent a debt to be collected, That's not called that's not considered hana'ah. And we're going to have other cases, as we also learned in Perek Beis, that when I make a neder on something that I own, even after that item is no longer mine, once the neder was chal, it's going to remain asur on the other in certain circumstances, at least, and many other nuances in Hilchas Nadarim. Again, Perek Vav has 18 halachas, beginning with halacha aleph. If a person tells us kalik hana'ah hamivia, these are the words hana'ah hamivia lidei macholcha asura alai. Any benefit that can lead to your food, is forbidden on me. Oh, if he says hana'ah hamivia lidei ma'achali, any benefit that leads to my food, not my food is asur on you. Any hana that can lead to my food is forbidden on you in either direction. What does that include? So listen, hareza hanesad, whoever is going to be bound by the oath, not only may not eat food right from the other party, but that automatically includes all of the utensils that are involved in food making, which will be a nafa, a sifter, a strainer, a hand mill, place an oven, and all other utensils that are directly used in the making of food. Aval, but a kalim that are completely not food related, like chveis, nizamim, nose rings, finger rings, v'kalim she'ein oisim v'moichal nefesh, they were not included in the vow. What's the in between? V'asur lishalem imenu sak. But to ask for a sak that is used to transport food, that's the meaning of hana that will bring to food. Halacha beis. In a place where utensils are only loaned for a fee. Also, and even the kelim that we mentioned above that are not used for eichel nefesh may not be used, because the money that my fellow will save by not paying me the schar, which normally he would pay, that money that we have in Chassidus, that liquids bring to Geld brings to food. Ask a yid. That's the only entertainment that we have kosher is food. That's why it's hard from a person to be healthy. It's the only thing that they think is left. I take a walk in nature, and fallen in the cup, because in the villages there was no nature to walk in. But I'm saying food. So any money benefit that leads to food. But if you live in a place where people normally loan kalim without charging, and but why is he borrowing those utensils? Because he wants to appear in the eyes of others as a person of means. The irony of the world is that people that really, really need money will never get a loan. Because how will they pay it back? Who do you borrow money to? Who do you lend money to? People that are people of means, that don't need it. So to them, you give it because they don't need it. So a person needs to borrow money. He wants to look like he's a big knacker. So he wants to show the potential lender, stays, look at me. So he's borrowing the car, he's borrowing the Audi. You understand? So the question is, but he's going to get from that alone. He's going to get hanom from others. I want to go through your property. I'm not having hana from your property. I'm having hana from the neighboring property. No, well, this is called indirect benefit. And therefore, whenever there's a doubt, don't do it. If you did it, you're not going to be chayv malchus. Halacha gimel. Ein bein muder hana mechavedet. Muder mimenu hanas meichol. No, there's a big. I make a vow not to have hana'ah, which is much broader. I make a vow not to have hanas meichel, which is the topic of this chapter. You see, hanas meichel doesn't only mean meichel, right? Hanas meichel means something that can bring to meichel. So what will be the big difference? The risa saregel. The risa saregel means going through someone else's property, and the kelim she'ein oisma meichel nefesh only in the places where people lend out things b'chinam. Halacha daled. Reuven shenesra olav hana Shimon. Guys, almost for the end, the entire rest of the chapter will be just a halkah that Reuven is making a vow in which Reuven is forbidding himself to have hana from Shimon. Really, everything that you own, Shimon, is asur on me. In this direction, Reuven cannot have hana from Shimon. Whether he made that through a net, whether he made it through a shvur. Right, he cannot benefit from Shimon. So now, question number one: can Shimon pay a half a shekel for Reuven? No, it's Shimon Yehalz is paying a debt of Reuven. That's allowed to be done. That's not what
It's in the
Hannah.
last chapter.
Like in the last chapter, I know. In other words, das balabatam hey das Torah is for these cases. If you would have written the rules, you would, I think, differently. But the Torah is telling me how to think. This the hana that's forbidden from a nether or does not include this. The chenap and bechlal, you can pay any other debt. You can argue maybe maxis hashekel. It's not a debt. First of all, it is a debt. But imagine if you loan me money, I'm chayv to pay you money. Someone from whom I may not benefit can pay my debt to you. Because why? Because Reuven is not getting, he's getting a burden relieved. Getting a burden relieved is not called getting benefit in this context. This guy is going to stop harassing me. I'm not going to, psychologically, I feel burdened. I have a debt. Okay, so you relieve the burden. Relieving a burden is not called anah. We ask of God, he should relieve our burdens. Even don't give me out. Just take
a positive, you remove the negative.
Remove the negative. Thank you, Dana. Very good. Therefore, if you want to help your fellow Jew, don't just relieve their tzaddis. That's not good enough. Give him something positive. Every man is obligated to support his family. Who is chayev. So again, Reuven says Reuven may not benefit from Shimon. Shimon can support Reuven's family because it's a debt on Reuven. It's a burden on Reuven. But feeding his animal, why? Now I'll tell you why. Because when you feed someone else's animal, the animal gets fatter. Then if they sell the animal, it's more valuable. It's different. That's called a hana. That's coming. He's going to own his behemoth. Will have more value. Even Tameya. No, bein Tameya because he can sell it. Thank you. Let's say.
There are animals that you don't sell. What if it's a dog?
You're an American. I would sell my dog. Let me show you right away.
But it's not for more money because it's fatter.
Maybe I'll find this guy over here that wants the fat dog.
Sure
I don't know. Yeah, it depends on the culture. Okay, let's go back to Allah. I apologize to all the people that have the behemoths. Beautiful, good for you. Chesed. I'm not making this.
Dogs are people too.
But dogs are not people. Dogs are dogs. That's the clear. Halacha. Again, guys, this is the direction. Reuven cannot benefit from Shimon. Shimon is a kohen. Can Shimon bring a carbon for me? Who is the kohen working for? That's the question. Is he shluchei, right? The shluchei de Rachmana? What's the other lashon? I forgot. Or shluchei of the people. The lashon for that. Shluchei of God. He's mainly representing God. So I'm not getting hano. He's not working for me. Furthermore, if Shimon has a daughter that's a begeres or older, then they can marry to go to shidduch. But if she's a nara, because the Toidem Shimon Trumas Reuven. He can separate Truma, which Reuven cannot benefit from Shimon. By the way, I cannot separate your Trumas from Maisris. That's one of the sources of Shlichus, right? We learn Shlichus from two. But if I make a statement that anyone has permission to be Toidem on my behalf, that's the case over here. It has to be Midaitoi. But he can't tell him directly. If I'm telling you directly, then I'm having hanar from you. Midaita means because then he's making him his shliach, and that's already a direct hanar. Allah 7. Another thing. Reuven guys cannot have hanar from Shimon. Shimon can teach Reuven Torah Shebal Peh. It's forbidden to take money for teaching Torah Shebal Peh. Chabad.org is mahadir in this. They pay no one for being not allowed to, which makes it so much more meaningful. But Torah Shebachsav you can charge money for. Yeah. And I'll tell you something more. The part is that teaching Torah Shebachsav, even if the guy's not going to charge, he can't do it. That's what we began this chapter, because if you're living in a place where you rent out Kalim B'schar, or if Reuven cannot benefit from Shimon, and Shimon is going to teach Reuven or Reuven's son Torah Shebachsav, and he won't charge him. So what? He's giving him a service that's valuable. Torah Sheba'al Peh is not viewed that way. But even on Torah Shebachsav, that's the key. I take it back to the Benoi. Mutter l'lamed Benoi. Because the Benoi can have enough from Shimon. There is a choiv on the father to teach a son. That's what we learned. That paying someone else's choiv, beautiful. Paying someone else's debt is not called hana. So the only person that Shimon cannot teach is Reuven if you're living in a place where people charge a fee for teaching Torah Sheba'al. Maybe just to say, maybe. Nowadays, at least by Ashkenazim, do you charge money for Torah to go pay tuition in the schools? The teachers get paid. Even though it's called Schar Batola, I wonder how that fits in over here. Because if you're living in a place where de facto people charge money for teaching Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is the society we have right now, can Shimon teach Reuven? I think he could because he's not paying for that. He's paying for Schar Batola.
Separate.
Huh?
He's paying for his
Not for
day
this.
job.
Huh?
He's paying for his day job. Otherwise, where's his?
You don't pay. You
gonna
pay
come
for the
from?
fact that these teachers think that if they would not go into Kodesh, they would become billionaires. They were Moisei Nefesh. They gave it all up. They're Schar Batola. Yeah, very good. Halacha Ches. Chala Reuven. Okay, Reuven gets again. The direction is that Reuven cannot benefit from Shimon. Reuven gets sick. The din is Shimon can go visit him. However, in the place, sometimes you pay people to go visit you, then Shimon cannot sit by sitting there. He can go there and standing. Now, anything that's mitzvah related will be permitted. Umutter, Shimon can heal Reuven. Why? Because it's a mitzvah. Teaching Torah to an adult, it's a mitzvah for Reuven to learn. Is Shimon chayev to be merapehem, to teach him Torah? No, Shimon has to heal him. These are good halachas. Needs more words. Let's go back to it. Halacha tes. Now, again, Reuven cannot benefit from Shimon. Reuven's animal got sick. And Shimon is a veterinarian. Lo yirapo isa Shimon. Dog is not a human. You can't compare. There's a mitzvah to heal a human being, and to heal it's a nice thing, but he can tell him what to do. We see again an indirect benefit or benefit gorua. Many times it's not called. It's because it's about halech achar lashon b'nei adam. That's not what they had in mind with Hana. Another look at these nuances now. They can bathe together in a big bath, not in a small bath. Why not? Because when you bathe together, guys, the baths then were cold. So it was a hot day like yesterday or like today. So when you have two people going in the same bathtub, if they're close to each other, small, so when the Reuven goes in there, the water level rises. That's Hana. But the opposite, the Reuven cannot benefit from Shimon. If Shimon goes into a little bathtub with Reuven, he's giving him Hana. But if it's a big bathtub and you're going in there or not, won't raise the water level. How great is this? If it's summer, they can sleep on the same bed, but not in the winter because one warms up the other. You can sit or lay on the same couch and you can eat on the same table, but not from the same plate. You cannot eat from the same trough. Why? Not interesting, beautiful. Because when two people eat together, if they're half human, not animals, so part of the psychology is I'm eating, I'm going to leave a piece for you. So if we're eating out of the same thing and I see Reuven, I'm going to leave. I should leave out of a shtickle for him. That's going to be Mahanaim. That he won't eat in order for Reuven to eat. Or he'll turn the plate, making it easier for the other guy to get it. So to prevent from that to happening, they can eat on the same table, but there's a certain limit. That what happens if they're eating again? Reuven cannot benefit from Shimon, and the way the system works is they're both in someone else's home. So Shimon knows that even if Shimon will take the piece of meat, the balabas is going to replenish it. Who's being mahana whom? The balabas, not Shimon. So even if Shimon won't eat the meat, to leave it for it's not called. He's not giving Reuven hana. Hanei zemuter. And the ein choshishin Shemah hiniach neisach toiv b'shviloi, because even if Shimon would have taken that steak, the host would have replenished it. So Shimon is not giving anything to Reuven. Halacha yud. Umuta Reuven lishtais kaishal nechumim miyadish shel Shimon Umuta Reuven. So again, Reuven cannot benefit from Shimon. The wine belongs to Reuven. The wine belongs to Reuven. Shimon is going to offer him the cup, which is the minhag. Someone is sitting in Avelus, like under a chuppah, you pour it. That's okay. That's not called hana. If the wine belongs to Reuven, that's key.
Isn't it a mitzvah anyway to go to a mourner's home and take care of him?
I don't think it's to give him food. If it would be a mitzvah, then maybe he would allow to give him his own wine. A question mark. I don't know for sure. In other words, when you go into a bathhouse, so they give you what to drink, as long as Shimon is not out of pocketing that which Reuven is benefiting, he's just serving it to him. That's not called hana'ah. Halacha Yudal. Reuven bagachaltoi shel Shimon. If Reuven cannot benefit from Shimon, then Reuven may not use Shimon's coals, but he can use his flame. That's a big thing in Gemara. In other words, what happens if Shimon has a candle? Can Reuven take fire from the candle? Yeah. Because the fire is no mamashas. Very good. Shimon owns the bathhouse, or he owns an olive press. But how does Shimon make a living? Shimon rents it out to some person. That person, in turn, he allows people to use it. Bechinam, beschar. Like you're the owner rented it out. So what do we do? So if Shimon, the owner, still has a little corner that is not rented out to anyone, so he's still considered the owner. And now Reuven, even paying a fee, I think, to whoever's managing it, cannot do that. If Shimon has some hold on it, some hold means there is one part of this bathhouse that Shimon, the owner, does not allow anyone to use. It's his. Even if it's one little bath, or if he has a Beis Habad and there's so many presses, one press the owner retains. Now, he cannot even enter that bathhouse. He cannot use that gas. But if the owner left nothing for himself, so then we view it that during the lease that Shimon, the owner, made with whoever took it, it's not Shimon's anymore. Because Reuven is not being mahana from Shimon, he's having hana from the guy who's managing this business. Halacha Yud Gimel. For us, little Reuven lachem lepeiros Shimon. He cannot eat from the fruits from his field. Here's the word. Even during Shvi is here. 1 second. Isn't the produce of Shvi is hefkid? Yes. If the neder was made prior to the Shemitah year, we learned this in the last chapter. Nachamol was if I make a vow that you cannot benefit from something that belongs to me, once the neder takes hold, even though now it no longer belongs to me. Bafilu b'shvi is that everything is hefkid. Shahadei lifnei shvi is neder. That's the key. The neder must have been made before Shvi'is. But if the neder was only made in Shvi'is, so then it was the neder chal no, because I'm making a vow on you regarding something that's not mine. But 1 second, you know what's mine? My land is mine. So if I'm making a neder on the Shemitah that you cannot benefit from my property, can you walk into my property and eat? Theoretically, yes, if you will not linger there. But if you're going to take the fruit and then you're going to linger there, that the Torah did not give you the shoes, then you will be having hana'ah. So then the rule is, only the peiros that are hanging outside my property, that is something that person can take. Kaka hefker doesn't mean that on Shemitah I don't own the land. It means that God gave everyone the right to go there to take their produce. Because maybe the guy, in our case, Reuven, she'll linger after he eats. Beautiful. Guys, halta heads over here. Is going that if the neder was made before Shemitah, even though now it's Shemitah, that produce remains forbidden. That's only Kisha Amar Loy Hanoas Hanochasim Ho'elu Asurim Alecha. Asurim Alecha means like La'olam. A blank statement, broader. But if he says Hanoas Nechasai, just to know, we interpret Nechasai means when they are my Nechasai. That's our understanding of these words. You get it? If he says that you cannot have anam from Shimon's property. Why did he have to add from Shimon's property? What he's trying to say is that when it's no longer Shimon's property, you could have Hana. Then because now they don't belong to Shimon. But again, he cannot enter his property because it might end up lingering there, as we learned about. Halacha tez, well, let's get moving, it's getting late. Halacha tez, well, if the vow that Reuven took upon himself was not, I can't benefit from Shimon, I cannot benefit from Shimon's food, that is what's usher on Reuven. So now we say the following, right? It's not an Isar Hana, it's very different. If the vow was made before Shvi'is, maybe not the name of Shvuah. Wow. First of all, what did we say before? I can't linger in your field. Why not? I can go into your field. I never made a nether not to have Hana on Drisa Sregel. Hana. I made a nether only for food. I can go in there, but I can't eat your fruit. Why can't I eat your fruit? Because of the rule that we keep on learning. That if the nether was made before Shmiti, even regarding the food, even though now the food doesn't belong to the Bala Soda, the nether continues, but you can enter the field. Now, the Imbish Shvi'is Nasra, if the vow was made on Shvi'is when he didn't even own it, then he can go and take it. Because there was no nether against Hana. Let him linger and stay there. He only forbid food and not Drisa Saregel. Yored V'Eichel, She'ein Peres Elo Shel Shimon, Elo Shel Hefkenein, and you can benefit from the property. Beautiful. Halacha Tezayin. V'Aser L'Reuven Lahashel L'Shimon. It's forbidden for Reuven to lend articles to Shimon. Why? Gezeira. Here we do make a Gezeira. I don't know why we say it sometimes and not in other times. That Shema Yishol Mimenu. But guys, this is going to a case where there's this general Isar Hana. Reuven says, I am forbidden to have Hana from Shimon. Reuven cannot lend anything to Shimon. Why? Because if he's going to lend to Shimon, he might borrow. And he made the vow on himself. I cannot benefit from you. He cannot borrow a keli. He cannot lend the money. He cannot sell something to him because he might make a purchase from him. If happens to be that they're working together, Reuven and Shimon, for example, they're harvesting together, then they have to keep far apart. Because since Reuven says, I may not benefit, guys, halacha tezayin is hana. I cannot benefit from Shimon. When people work together, normal people, they help each other out. Hamad es benoy. If a person makes a vow against the son, Nabachan the son, because the son is not oisik batoira, and now v'neser banos aviv, the son cannot benefit from the father. The father is allowed to fill up his chaviyas halmayim. The father is allowed to light a candle. The father can roast a little fish ala. Because even when a father is dysfunctional and is making vows that a son cannot have hana from the father, as meshuga as he is, doesn't mean any hana. Beautiful halacha. Even this father only means a big hana. He never had in mind a small hana. Also, when the son, that's all of our children. Do your children appreciate you? Not as much as Mustama they should. I don't know why. I definitely did not appreciate my parents enough. In other words, it's a bull. You're giving him a fish. You know what the son says? My dad was a terrible dad. He didn't give me the big fish. He doesn't recognize that as a hana. Final halacha yudches. Mi shenishba. Make an oath not to talk to you. So you said talking? You didn't mean communicating. You can write him a letter. Or you can speak to a third party even though he's listening.
The chassan kala in the week before the wedding.
So then he is saying, chassan kala, they can't talk to each other. What we need to do is, they need to talk to a third party very loud.
Or text each other.
Or text each other. That's not very good. They can text each other because they're not violent. Now, you have to know the reason for that. It's a minik. And you have to know whether you're breaking the spirit of the minik. But technically, you are right. The best. You continue, guys.
Very good.